Good morning. It's Friday, my favorite day of the week, and welcome to my jungle or my dining room. Can't be a jungle without plants hanging from the ceiling, and my sweet husband won't hang hooks from the ceiling because it's a perfectly good ceiling, according to him. I don't know about that, but that kind of irritates me because we hang perfectly good mountain bikes from his perfectly good ceiling in the bike room, but the dining room, we don't want to do any damage to the character of the house. So if anybody of you out there knows him, call him up, send him a text, tell him to drill my hole so that we can have a jungle on Friday mornings. Please. This is irritating me like crazy. That, or I'm going to have to tell him to throw his crap off of the dresser onto the floor so that I can have the dresser for my plants because my babies need some light. I'm desperate. I'm just reaching out for help here, people, doing whatever I can. But back to what we're here for. We're here for plants. And I promised you guys some information on jade. And I got to tell you that jade is one of my absolute favorite plants. It's so easy. You just really can't go wrong. And there are I think I read 140 varieties. There's not a chance I'm ever going to be able to collect all of those. However, I do have a couple of favorites. And I've talked to you before about how I like to upcycle containers. And unfortunately, it's cold in Kansas in the winter, as we've discussed before, and I have to have, I say 16, 18 because I've lost track of lights in the basement. One nice thing, though, about jades is even though all my succulents and more expensive plants are in the basement, with a little bit of light from the windows, you can keep jade alive in your regular lighting of the windows in the house because they were originally designed to be a house plant. Now, there's a saying about jades that's always struck my fancy. And when you grow up on the poor side, you remember things that you heard from your childhood. And one of the things that I can remember always hearing is jade by the door, poor no more. And so I have a tendency to give jade as a gift. And as soon as I realized that, one of the things I did for the office that I work for is once I remembered that, because you know how you know things and then you forget and something sparks it back up and you're like, oh yeah, I knew that. I totally knew that. I just forgot. So anyways, I have a jade plant at the office. It's this exact jade. This is called Ovita. I think I pronounced that right. Don't quote me. Let's just call it the common jade because this is the most common one. And you can see, okay, first off, look at my galvanized containers. Isn't she pretty? I keep this on my porch. As you're coming up the steps, I've got 3 steps and a landing. And so I have this one on one side of my step because my steps are extra wide. And so I kind of live an asymmetrical life. And I have this one on the second step or the underneath the landing. And then I've got this one on this other side, the opposite side. I say I live an asymmetrical life. It's like I always have to have everything the same on both sides and then something different in the middle to kind of even it out. I know that's weird, but I really do it. Look at the quilts and the tablecloths behind me. I do it everywhere. There isn't a place in this house or outside that I don't kind of do that. And it's really kind of freaking me out once I realize that that's like a pattern of mine. I got to break these things. Anyways, let me not get off subject with you too tough here. So this is the regular common jade. And you can see that I have cut this jade multiple times. In fact, I cut this down to the trunk because jades are known as bushes in higher heat areas. I say heat, people that don't have winters, like California. These are actual bushes. And they get huge. But I've had a grow room in the basement this is my 3rd winter. And so this was one of them that came in the first winter. In fact, my 3 biggest ones on the table actually have been down there for 3 winters. Whereas before, I always had to start over the next year. Well, if you can keep them in the basement or wherever you can in the winter, in a south window, an east window, then you have the ability to have a bigger jade in the future because they just get bigger. It's very difficult to go to the nursery and just find a full-size 10-year jade plant that you can actually afford. But you can go to the nursery and you can buy a 4, 6, 8-inch plant for, pocket change, and then nurture it and then have a plant for the rest of your life. And one of the things that I like about jade is it's very easy to share. One of the things that people wanted me to show was how to propagate them today, and I am going to do that. But I wanted to share with you a couple of other jades before I did. This one was sold to me as a silver dollar jade, and I just recently propagated it by cutting off right here. You can see that. And it looks like I also cut off right here. See? Yeah, you can see that. And I did it in a couple other spots, but it's kind of compacted enough that you can't see it. But I have those in here as my gallon bag greenhouse experiment continues. My previous videos has been on La Jolla in the bag, and so this week I've got the jade in the bag, although there's not much results because jade is very slow at rooting, and so it's only been in there a week, and so there's no action going on in there, sadly. But I'm trying. I'm really trying. So again, this was sold to me as a silver dollar jade. I suspect it's not. But oftentimes when you go to the nursery and you see that they have tags on them, or even on Pinterest, it tells you one thing and then you realize later that it's another, because any yahoo can put something up on Pinterest. I mean, look at me, I'm putting this up on YouTube, and I'm not an expert. I just know that by comparing pictures and by seeing what I've seen in groups and by seeing what I've seen in other stores, and then just everything that you see online, I'm highly suspect that that is not what I thought it was when I bought it. That does not change the fact that I love it. I'm going to nurture it as if, I would any other plant. It's just that I got to get that figured out for sure so I can give certainty as to what it is. Now, another way that you can propagate jade, which I'm going to cut this in a minute, but I want you to see in my container, you see these things? Every time I see a bad leaf, and this is a bad leaf, to me cosmetics are important. I see a bad leaf like this. You see how it's got that yuck? It's like a scar. It's a scab. If you have a scab, you pick that scab off. I mean, some people do, some people don't. But I take it off, and then I put the leaf next to the mother plant. And those leaves create new babies. And you can see that because I'm going to pull this out. It's snug in the dirt, but I'm going to pull it out. Okay. This was in the dirt. This started from a leaf. And I do that. You see a lot of people who are into succulents. They have big trays of nothing but leaves, all sorts of kinds. And I do have those trays. A couple small ones. But for the most part, I like to put the leaf inside the plant next to the mama, because I don't know what it is, but when you're next to mama, it's a little bit, in my little mind, it's a little bit like nursing. You're going to thrive next to your mama. You go off here next in your crib all by yourself in a box with nobody there, you're not going to do as well. And so I have a tendency to keep my babies next to mama as much as possible, because that's just the way I roll. Golem and all that other stuff. This is one of the more Eeyore ears golem. I'm not exactly certain, because this is another one that I'm pretty convinced was not what it was sold to me as. I told you I live this asymmetrical life. Look at this. So these go on the second shelf underneath the ones that I showed you earlier. It's really cool though. When you're walking up to my steps, it's like, she got something nobody else does, and that's pretty cool. And if you guys do get it, it's okay, because mockery is the greatest form of flattery, or not mockery, copying, whatever that the case may be. Okay. All right. Now, I've got a couple more examples here. I just said all these different names of jade. I'm going to show you a ripple jade here. This one's a really cool. This is one that I bought in a 2-inch pot. It's cute. It's going to get as big as this big mama here. Even bigger if I nurture it correctly. But I've had it downstairs under the lights in a little 2-inch container. And I just hadn't had a reason to pot it up until I was getting ready for this. And this is one of those containers that I really like in my dining room because besides red and white, I have a lot of yellow. And I really like this guy. And he's got a turquoise container to the next to him that I have another plant with, but it's not jade, so I can't show you. Okay, the other, I'm a little dingy some mornings, and I haven't had my coffee yet because I wanted to do this video before I went to work, because even though I get off at noon, while I'm there, knowing I'm going to do this video, I can't shut off my mind, and I decided I have to do this before I go to work, and I'm kind of running on the late side today so that I can do this, and so forgive me. I appreciate your patience with me, but I wanted to also point out some of the other plants in the jade or chrysilla family. And I really struggle with pronouncing, and I did practice that. And if I said it wrong, please, Jackie, if you're watching this, do not be afraid to correct me. But they have a couple plants in this chrysilla family, the string of buttons, the baby necklace, and the ivory towers. And I think there's one or two that go along with that all look very similar, but they're different sizes in their leaves. And this one, I truly believe, look at this girl. I finally got light in my bedroom because we had had these blackout windows the whole time we've lived in this house. And I finally got my friend Jim, who's a contractor, to help girl out. And he did a fantastic job. And I cannot wait until I can get him to come back. But now I can display some of my more feminine items, because where I do have a bit of a shabby farmhouse style, just very older, not necessarily modern style in my home. I don't know how to really describe it, but that every now and then I want something girly. And this thing, a friend of mine told me was at a sale, and I went over, and this was the one that I picked out, and I put in the, you can see I am confident that this is the necklace, the baby necklace. And when I was planting it in here, I broke off several of the tips. I said necklace, I meant buttons. See, that's why people get confused. And so anyways, they'll break off. But when they do, look at this one. Look at how multiples came out the top from where it broke off. I mean, these plants reward you. If you can go through the ugly stages that they have from when you've broken them off, they reward you leaps and bounds. And here's another example of that. I absolutely love the ivory towers, and I just showed this to you. But this is what I really want to show you. I'm going to try real hard to get this to you. Okay. I about gave a friend a heart attack when I chopped these babies off. But, you see how there's 2 heads growing out of there and 2 heads growing out of there? When you cut these guys, you will be rewarded with anywhere from 1 to 3 heads. And it looks like I've got 2 coming in every single place that I've cut them, even down here. And they are absolutely one of my most favorite plants ever. And they're just a stunning, stunning plant. And I wish I had better lighting so that I could show you how absolutely beautiful these are. And then over here, I've got some sedum coming out. Sedum, it's in the chrysilla family. My mind went totally blank. I'm so sorry. But anyways, it doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking about today. But I like how you can put things together and how they all look beautiful no matter what you do, especially if they're all suckies and you put them in the pot and you just nurture them one as you would the all in golden. Oh, I even dropped these. Look, these came out. But you can see where I've had multiple heads come. This has got to be the baby necklace. It's just got to be. But again, I do not have certainty with that because they're all so similar. It just kind of drives you crazy after a while. You're like, oh, that is. I just know that's a string of buttons. And then you find out it's a string of necklace. Oh, well. But here's another one of the jades. And this one is a variegated jade. And it just has all 3 of the colors, the pink, the white, and the green. I keep this one in my kitchen window because I have the vintage red and white going on in there. And I really like this plant because this is one of them that I started out from a cutting that I'm going to show you how to do next. And I've only had that one for a year. I started at the beginning of last summer. And so it's doing really well, I think, for the time. Now, I wanted to show you this one too because this is one that is called Campfire Jade, and it's got a lot of beautiful red on it. And these things grow like freaking crazy. I mean, they're just nuts. They just keep growing and growing and growing. Look at all that growth on there. I have chopped this baby so many times that I have a whole flat in the basement. Okay, here comes my girl. We're on my foot. You think she'll come say hi? Anyways, I have a bunch of them in a flat, you know, like a great big flat. And I brought up a couple of them to show you some of what I'm talking about. This is that Campfire Jade. And I have when I first brought this plant in, this mom that I just showed you, grasshoppers had gotten to it, you know, at the end, or when you're going into fall, the grasshoppers come out and they kind of destroy the leaves on things. And so I have a tendency to pluck all those leaves off. And wherever you pluck a leaf off of, another plant likes to form. And that's what's happened here. I just put it in another 2-inch container that I had from something else that I purchased, and I've got several of them started here. And on this one, you can see what I'm talking about, how when you chop off a head and another head comes, and how they reward you. This is all off of this plant that I was talking about, that this one right here, that had all the grasshoppers eat off of it, and I took off all the leaves and I just cut sections about like this and stuck it in dirt and hoped for the best, and I've got a whole flat of these babies. Okay, so now to what Susie wanted to know how to do. She's the one that encouraged me to do it on Jade Propagation because she had a trailing jade. Oh my goodness, I forgot my trailing jade. Just a second. I hate it when people do that. I'm so sorry. Okay, so this one's in my kitchen window. And this is a trailing jade. I've got the variegated on this side, and I've got the regular on this side. And I only have cuttings because I bought cuttings online of the variegated, and then my good friend shared me hers as well. And these basically come over and make a nice hanging basket or a trailing plant. But the idea of propagating every one of these is exactly the same as what I'm going to do right here. Okay, are you ready? Okay, for those of you that don't know, I like to sew, or I used to like to sew. I used to quilt quite a bit. I would always say that I can only sew in the winter because my gardens keep me busy in the summer. Well, with the basement and the way life has been, I think I'm going to have to give up quilting and sewing altogether because I barely had time to get my Christmas presents put out this year. And then I got a couple other projects that I'm working on now. I do have a really great quilt that I'm working on. My girlfriend who loves plants, and we always share together, she loves flowers, and she brought me this fabric that is just, oh my God, it's so beautiful. When I get it done, I can't wait to show it to you. But it'll be my last project for this year, and then we'll have to reconsider next year what my plan will be, even though I already have all the fabric bought. But anyways, we'll see. I always say that, and then something happens, and I get the bug. But back to the plants. I'm sorry, I got a little sidetracked. I haven't had my coffee yet. I told you that. Okay, so this plant, I'm going to do this one just because it's easy. You can see the trunk. You literally just cut it off. Back to the scissors. Make sure you clean them with soap and water or alcohol. It doesn't matter if they're your sewing scissors. These babies got downgraded to the garden center for me. And so anyways, but if all you have is kitchen shears, I've used them a lot. Just make sure that you either soap and water or alcohol or both before you get started, okay? And so right here, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to cut it flush with the trunk, for lack of a better word here. And then you end up with this beautiful little cutting. Now I got to show you something. You know, I talked to you about how these reward you. This one was originally cut right there. You can see where it's flat, and then this grew out the top. I have no concerns that a new one will come out there, and if it doesn't, oh well, look at how cool this is. It'll be just fine if it doesn't grow back, but it will. Let's find another spot here. I have really cut this baby down But I found. I should have looked better before I. Okay, I'm going to do another one that I just cut straight. But look, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here. This one was another one that was cut off before. But you see this big piece? I'm going to cut it at the very end where it's flush. And look at what I have. So now I have a couple of cuttings. Okay? And here's what you do. These scarred leaves were hiding from me because they were so close to the plant that I didn't see them, but they're also close to the bottom. So this is a win. This is where you get rid of the scarred leaves, put them in the bottom of the container, toss them, whatever you decide you want to do. And I just use my thumbnail. You can also use your scissors. You're going to let this dry out and scab over, and then you're going to put it in dirt. Let all of them scab over. These are succulents. If you put this moist cutting into soil that is wet or damp, you will have nothing but rot. You must let this callus over before you do anything with it, unless you have dry soil. And I have some succulent soil in here. And literally all you do is you make a little hole with whatever pencil, chopstick, whatever you have. Stick that in there. Some of them are thick enough that you don't even have to make a hole. You can just set it in there. From the day you cut to the day you water can be no less than 2 weeks. Trust me on this. Set your timer. Do not water this plant before 2 weeks. This is a succulent. You do not want that to happen. You don't want all your hard work to go for nothing, okay? You just don't want to do that. All right. I hope that I've taught you something new today. I hope that you are learning from me. If you're not and I'm just babbling, you need to tell me. I need some feedback. I lose my train of thought a lot when I'm passionate about what I'm talking about. I get excited, and sometimes I just don't know when to shut up or what to keep personal and what not to keep personal. And I'm sorry about the whole jungle thing, but I really need some hanging plants behind me here, because seriously, wouldn't that look adorable? Right, like on the end of these pictures. Come on, people, I need some help. Or better yet, just put 2 hangers up there, hang up a ladder, and I can just put the plants wherever I want hanging off that ladder. You know, you agree with me. Now I want to know, have you guys bought a plant this week? Have you nurtured a plant this week? And have you watered? And have you given it light? I need you to talk to me about these things so that I know about things in the future, what to do. Thank you again for coming, and please subscribe. If you feel comfortable enough sharing my video with all my rambling, please do that, because I'm trying to build a following here. Please reach out with any suggestions. I appreciate you all. Thank you, and have a wonderful weekend, and enjoy it as much as I will. Thank you.